Yay! Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 328. Tonight should be a pretty dang fun show.
I said I was ready. I was about 2 seconds behind.
It's okay. It's okay. I think we're all a little excited for tonight's guest. Long time coming. We've been wanting to get Sally McRae back on the show for, 17 years, I think is how long we've been trying to get her back on the show. It's been a long time since we've had her on the on Ginger Runner Live, and we just thought it was a perfect time because she's been up to a ton. Despite the pandemic, she's relocated from Southern California to Oregon, to the Pacific Northwest. She's still training, and she's inspiring a new generation of trail runners. And I want to talk to her about all of that. We're going to catch up. We're going to have fun. It's going to be a great show tonight with our wonderful friend, Sally McRae. So sit back and relax, everyone. Ginger Runner Live, episode number 328 begins now.
Ginger Runner.
Yay!
Yay!
I went long, you went short.
I realized I didn't bring adult beverage of my choice.
you brought one of my choice.
I didn't bring any beverages
No
today.
adult beverages tonight. That's okay.
All I have for beverages is the leftover coffee that I had this morning very early when I was up with Gus.
Mine's a leftover cider, the adult cider that we had during yesterday's daily brew.
Professionals.
We're professionals. This is definitely not our first time. Welcome, everyone, to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 328. We're certainly getting up there. We appreciate you spending a little bit of your busy Mondays with us tonight. We have a very special guest. Longtime friend, adventurer and ultra runner Sally McRae is going to be joining us on tonight's episode, and we are as excited, if not more so, than she is. Sally is just known for her energy, for her spirit. They can't see you, Sally, just so you know.
But we can.
But we can. We have a big Sally McRae right here off screen when we bring her on. Hold on to that, Sally. Keep it ready. So we see what she's doing, but you guys can't yet. Hold it, Sally. Save it for the show. I can already tell this is going to be as good as I'd hoped because Sally's been a longtime friend. She's so fun. And
Sally always brings the good vibes.
always good vibes. So I don't doubt that you're going to smile tonight. You're going to smile. We're going to have some fun. And that's exactly what we want to do here on Monday. So Ginger Runner Live has been going on for a long time here. You might be familiar with the show. If you are not, welcome. It is a live show. You get to interact with Sally. Kim, you are going to be in the chat room, correct?
I'm going to be in the chat room. You
Cool.
said my lines. I have one thing I say every show. You just said them. Hi, everyone. As Ethan just mentioned, we are live.
I can't do it again.
Because we are live, we'll be bringing Sally on in just a second. As Ethan mentioned, you can interact with our guests. So if you have questions for Sally, we already have some rolling in. But if you do have questions for Sally, you can pop them in the chat room.
In addition to our wonderful live viewers and our guests tonight, we do have some individuals that we like to thank at the top of every show, and that is our Patreon crew, those who support us over on Patreon, patreon.com/thegingerrunner. For as little as $1 a month, you get access to all of our archived after shows. So tonight we'll have Sally McRae stick around for a little bit after our main show, and you can interact with her even more if you are a Patreon supporter. And lately, the last 160 days. So
Yeah, it's not lately.
it's no longer lately.
It's literally over 6 months.
We've been going live every single day. We do a new show called Daily Brew, which is a live daily show where we drink coffee or adult beverages and we talk about running, training, injury prevention, stuff like that, or just everyday topics.
British Bake Off.
Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek.
So it's a lot of fun, and that is for our $3 and above Patreon subscribers. And we are on episode 160 of that. There's a lot of content to catch up on. So if you'd like to join us, you can do so over on Patreon.
It's all very high quality.
High quality,
All
top
of
tier
it.
content. Top tier, 160 episodes. And one individual in particular at that top tier, Brian Sands, has been an incredible support for us over the years, and he's an inspiring runner himself. He trained and ran his first marathon at the age of 50, then his first 50K soon after that. He is currently training for the Cocodona 250 miler. This guy's been on an incredible journey, lost over 100 pounds in his journey, and has just inspired numerous runners, myself and Kim included. So Brian, thank you for the continued support. We appreciate you, my friend, and all that you do for this amazing, amazing community. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our wonderful guest. Again, it's been a long time since she's been on the show, but she's just fantastic. Adventurer, ultra runner, inspiring athlete, and overall dose of sunshine. Without further ado, Sally McRae.
Yay!
There it is.
Happy fall, y'all! Man, it's so good to see her. I just have to say, before we get started, last night Ethan and I we were talking about the show that we were going to do today, and he just said that he just got done crushing some pumpkin bread, was it?
Yeah.
And I literally held up a package of the pumpkin bread I had in my hand in that moment, and I was like, "You mean this pumpkin bread?" And then we just back and forth, like, "You mean this pumpkin pancake mix, or the pumpkin pasta?" We talk about our maple autumn coffee.
Oh.
Tonight's episode is not sponsored by Trader Joe's.
And not sponsored by Trader Joe's, but Trader Joe's, if you're listening.
I mean, seriously. Sally, you need to be our constant Trader Joe's liaison. I like that. Is the pumpkin going to join us tonight?
I'm going to like this the whole time. Just want to bring some pumpkin joy to everyone. I know we
should decorate our set.
We should bring some fall vibes to our set. How's that? A little orange?
There we go. Beautiful.
Maybe that'll do it.
That's like haunted house.
Ooh, haunted topography map. So I mean, just talking about pumpkin, that's something I feel like you and I have shared in common for years. It's like when fall season rolls around, texts of like, "What do you got? What pumpkin stuff did you get at Trader Joe's? What is it?"
Anytime you post it on the stories, I'm like, yes. I get super excited. I always get excited when I meet new people and I find out they're pumpkin fans. I don't know what it is. It's like, yeah, we're friends. You're my people.
I like that there's no other prerequisite. You just have to like pumpkin spice.
Just bring that up.
Yeah.
Or even better, bring me something pumpkin.
Does that trickle down to the rest of the family, or are you the only person in your family that likes pumpkin stuff?
Oh, like I should probably walk over to my daughter's room right now with the computer and show you how she has completely splattered her entire room with fall decorations, pumpkins everywhere. I think what it is like pumpkin season just is the beginning of the holiday season. It's the change of weather. And I feel like even more so than in years past, it's like a little bit of joy that we all need right now because there's so many like fun memories just attached to it. And I decorate the house and have made so many traditions for our families over the years. So as soon as it hits fall season, my kids get so excited. So they love all the pumpkin stuff. Eddie doesn't. He's not a pumpkin fan, but you know, oh well, you're eating the pumpkin pasta, babe. Like pumpkin.
Just more for the rest of you. You bring up seasons, and this is something I don't think you and I have talked about it in years, and that's we both lived in Southern California for a long time. You probably longer than myself. One thing that I remember from Southern California is the lack of seasons. You would basically be cued into what season it was based off of like what drink Starbucks had or what decorations the Grove had up, right? So now you relocated. You live in a place that has seasons. Let's talk a little bit about that. What was the draw to where you live now, and what was that process like?
Yeah. Well, I do have to know, Mackenzie was actually born in Washington, D.C. We did live on the East Coast for a few years, and I did fall in love with the seasons then. That was incredible. But I always thought that once I graduated from college that I would move out of California. Never thought that I would stay there. So it was always a dream of mine to move somewhere that was just a little bit slower pace, a little bit quieter. I've loved the mountains since I was a little girl. So kind of had that idea of wanting to live somewhere surrounded by the mountains or just more in closer to nature.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen, which is fine. There's so many things in my life that I feel like, oh, I definitely didn't think that I would be doing this, or like, wow, this is so awesome. I never thought I would be able to do this. And, both of Eddie's family and my family are from Southern California. They all are around there. And that's pretty easy when your families are in one spot. Sometimes we tend to stay in that spot. But the first year, pretty much actually the first few months that Eddie and I were married, I remember walking into the living room and he was looking at property in Bend, Oregon. And I was like, what? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, dude, look at how cheap the houses are. Like, you can get a house on land with like the river running through and it's like $80,000, it's just like the price of a truck. Right. And, we will be married 19 years in next June. So we've been together since we were 12. And, he's like, this would be amazing. But, my family would crucify me if I ever left Southern California. So that was kind of just closed the book on it. And, as years have gone by and as the kids have gotten older, living in Southern California, and this is really just like a personal thing in my heart, it's just a really hard place to raise kids. I've wanted to be in a place where I could just kind of say, hey, go out and explore on your own, like get up in the mountains and just be in a place where if they could get to know people in the community a little bit easier, just more of a smaller town feel. And so, once COVID hit, it was like a new discussion for us because all my races were canceled. So many of my events were canceled. My camps were canceled. And, every day it was me making 3 meals a day, doing a ton of dishes, sitting around a table and just having these conversations. And so it was 3 months into kind of like the lockdown. And I said, why don't we like go drive somewhere? And out of nowhere, I just mentioned Bend, and my husband had never even been there and he wanted to move there so long ago. And I was like, why don't we go up there? We have friends up there. And he's like, all right. And our friends were like, come stay with us. So while we're driving up there, I said, hey, I wonder how much it is to live up there. And, Southern California, where we were in Huntington Beach, it was ridiculously expensive. And so, we started looking at prices and I was like, wow, that's a lot cheaper than SoCal. That would be kind of nice. So we went up there, we spent a few days there, and believe it or not, my kids being 12 and 14, we never thought it would go through their head that, yeah, let's move. That's kind of a hard age. But they loved it. And they said, Mom, we would love to move here. And I was shocked. Eddie wasn't on board right away. So I brought it up to him one time and then he was like, no, I just don't up and move. Like, I don't do stuff like that. Like, we can't, no, this is crazy. I'd have to like leave my job, my family. And I was like, all right, well, I'm ready. YOLO. And the kids were the same way. My kids are they're kind of similar more to me. Just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Here we go. Adventure. And, we went home and for like 4 weeks, it was just I just stayed quiet, didn't really say anything. And then one day he sent me a house on Zillow and I was like, oh, okay. So you are thinking about it. And it was crazy. It was a matter of from the time we went and stayed with our friends in May to the end of June, we found a house and made the decision to move up here. So there's a longer story attached to it, but at the end of the day, it is like one of the huge blessings that has come out of COVID. And, I've really tried during this time to find that. There's a lot of things to be sad about. There's a lot of devastation in the world and tension. And, with our family, I've just like, let's look at all the good things. Okay, we're spending a lot of time together. We're having more conversations. We're looking at our lives in different angles, especially if we don't know if life will ever go back completely the way it was, or maybe it'll be a long time. What are things we can take advantage of? And so, as you guys know, you've moved a couple of times. It's a lot of energy and stress to uproot your life.
Yeah.
And, I typically, when I'm in race season, and that really, the last 6-7 years that I've been racing professionally, it's like I'm traveling every 3 to 4 weeks pretty consistently. But having to stay in lockdown, I wasn't doing that. So it just gave us this time together to have these conversations and make this big move. And The family couldn't be happier, and I'm just super grateful. So, and being up here, I mean, we were up on Mount Bachelor, which is 15 minutes from our doorstep, just yesterday, and then back downtown getting coffee and ice cream within 15 minutes after that. And I'm like, this is amazing. So, just in a season of gratitude right now. Also in a season of lots of boxes and renovating our house. Pretending that we know what we're doing, but we don't.
I can't wait to actually ask more of like the home reno stuff, because I can see like right behind you, it looks like you already started on that wall. Looks like you put a hammer right through it there. I'm like, she's getting started on the show.
I thought that was like a water drop on the camera lens. That's what it looks like.
Dude, this is Mackenzie's heel. Our bed was originally here. Like one day, her and Isaiah and Mackenzie are like best friends. It's like the biggest blessing. I know it's not normal for siblings to always get along so well, but these two do. They're hilarious. But I was sitting at my end of the table in the dining room doing lesson plans, and all of a sudden I hear Isaiah go, "Oh no, oh no!" And it's a big thump, and then it's just Wyatt. And both of them come out and they're like, something happened in your room. And I walk into my room and they're like, we were just doing flips on the bed, Mom. We just, you know? And everything in me knew like I needed to take this seriously, but I wanted to bust up laughing so much. So I just look at them for 2 seconds. I'm like, both of you guys go to your room. And as soon as they went to the room, like I like closed my bedroom door and just like laid on the bed and started laughing because it was so funny. But it looks worse than it is. I'm gonna just see what Joanna Gaines would do there. Watch some more HGTV. That's all I've been doing is watching HGTV and YouTube, and I feel like I know what I'm doing here in the house. So
I'm picturing like the kids coming out and it's like, oh no, Sally's gonna be so upset, Mom's gonna be so upset, and you're like, you go to the room or go to your room, and then you go into your room and you say you start laughing, and I'm like, I know you're laugh, so they definitely hear you in the other room just just laughing. So they're like, wait, are we in trouble or is this a joke? What you should do is start doing flips on your bed and putting more holes in the wall and just be like, listen.
Just add a nice little design.
Yeah, this is what Joanna Gaines would do. Kind of what you were bringing up as in regards to, you know, when COVID hit and the pandemic and everything like that, and having a conversation with your family and sort of looking at things a bit differently. It's a conversation that Kim and I have had, that our families have had, just in regards to where do you want to be, where can you be and still, you know, have a career and have a job. And like, we're seeing this happen so frequently with people leaving cities to go to the communities that they want to be, or like they want to live closer to the mountains. So why not? If they have internet or they're able to work from home, you know, why not do that? And we're seeing a lot more of it. And it's really pretty cool because we're seeing people take a chance that they normally wouldn't have taken, you know. And I can imagine for you, you're very busy with a race season, with training, with coaching, with everything that you do. It's probably just this constant work. And so it was probably really easy to say, oh, well, we'll talk about Bend another time. Like we'll talk about it maybe in a couple months, or we'll have that conversation later. So this gave you the opportunity to have that convo, huh?
Yeah. I think you bring up such a great point because I know personally, I've done this so many times in my life, and maybe it's just human nature that when it comes to a really big decision, it feels comfortable to say, oh, we'll talk about that another time, or that will come when we're less busy, or that's definitely for a day in the future. But it is crazy how fast days go by, how fast the months and the years go by. I mean, there's, you know, I look at my kids and think that, you know, it's like, dang, man, I was just taking you to kindergarten. How are you already in high school? And it's just, you know, wanting to make sure that the big things that we think about a lot are actually a big thing in our heart, in our mind, that maybe are just the only reason why we don't tackle it is because we're just afraid to. And you know, when Eddie and I first told our family and friends that we were moving, everyone of course was in shock because it wasn't something that we had been talking about or been planning on or discussing. You know, sometimes people talk about making a big move or a job change or, you know, getting married and all of that. There's like this long process. There's, sometimes that takes years before you actually get there. But it had been a conversation that we had talked about for so long, but we just didn't do anything about it. So when we finally did, so many people were like, oh, I could never do that. Like, that's just crazy. I couldn't leave my parents. I couldn't leave my job. I couldn't leave. And in my mind, I just kept thinking, like, we had all those exact same excuses. And I think we can say that about anything in life, having, coaching, whenever I coach a new athlete, it's interesting when I get to the conversation about goals, because there is always that 5 steps back that they'll take. Well, I just only want to do this, or I would want to do that, like maybe in the future, but I'm not that fast, or I don't have that much time, or that's just not me. And it's really easy to make excuses because we're so afraid that it's either not going to work out the way that we hoped it would, that it would fail, and everyone would see that failure. And we don't like that feeling. We don't want to have that, oh, I told you so. You thought it was me great and it wasn't, or you thought that, that you'd crush it and you didn't. What a waste of time, or what a waste of money, or look at you could have done. But I learned, it was probably like more around like when my mom passed away, and I've lost some other really precious people in my life at a really young age. And I realized it's just like, man, life is so fleeting, and why not take a chance? Because the thing is, it's like, we can always move back home, right? I can always, when it comes to running goals, it's like, there's always another race. There's always another season. So, I think, but then when it comes to your family, you're talking about being considerate of a partner, of kids. And so the biggest thing for us in that was just the communication. And COVID has really, really, really forced us to be better communicators just as a family and as a whole, because we're spending so much time inside and together and having to work through a lot of those hard conversations, but it's so worth it. So I wouldn't say that moving up here was super easy and we've been happy like every single day. It was really hard. It was painful. We all cried as we drove away. And then, when we got here this first few weeks, like my kids were sleeping on the floor in sleeping bags. And I didn't want to be, I was raised in a big family. We didn't have much growing up. I started working at a really young age. I had 2 jobs by the time I was 15. I've worked for everything that I've had. I've never gotten the opportunities and the handouts. And I don't say that in a negative way. It's like, that's what's fueled me my entire life. I'm so grateful for that. And so when we moved, moving from Orange County, California, the message I told my kid was like, we're not moving into like some big, beautiful house in Bend. We're moving into a literal 1,000-foot fixer-upper that's not attractive, that's smaller than the house that we're renting here in Orange County. And you guys are going to put your hands to the plow and you're going to work on it, because there's so much good in that. So they had to help. They tore up the carpet in their bedrooms. They helped paint the walls. Like, they hauled out the trash. And, we're still doing a lot of work on it. But this whole season has just been a journey of new hard stuff, of perseverance and patience, because they're not in school either, so they're hating being online. But I just couldn't be more grateful for what has come out of this move. So.
Everything that you're touching on, I feel myself nodding and agreeing, because it was before COVID. We kind of went through the same thing when we decided to leave Southern California to come back up to Seattle, to the Pacific Northwest. We had those conversations, and it took place over a really long period of time, because there was we have obligations here, and we do have things that we have to do here, and we have career things that we have to do here. But it eventually got to that point where, like, well, I guess we need to make this decision, or at least take those steps to make it a possibility. And that just took a long time. And I'm seeing people, yourself included, that are able to sort of condense all that into a shorter period of time, which is great, because life is fleeting, like you said. And so you're able to now look at what you're doing with your kids. You're building a home, essentially, right? You're kind of you're remodeling a home and giving them a place that they're proud to live in, and in a new city that they can make friends and new connections with. It's great. It's really, really neat to see. And we can talk a little bit more about it here in a second. But of course, Kim, you have tons of questions pulled aside. I don't want to forget the live audience here.
Yeah, first, just a comment from Megan. Megan says, it reminds me of the phrase to this effect: comfort is the enemy of progress. And I think that's exactly it. And we've talked, I mean, you're talking about when we moved up here, but it was also the same situation when I uprooted my life from Canada, quit my job, left my family and moved, right? Like to achieve those other things in life, you have to sometimes go through a little bit of hardship as well. Raul in the chat room, who is a fellow SoCal runner, he said he's been having some really good conversations with his family as well. And Raul is also a teacher. And Raul asked, does Eddie still teach? Did he get a job up there as well?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. You know, when we're discussing our move up here, the super short version of the story is we drove up here on a Tuesday. Before we even got to Oregon, we had no idea if we were just going to rent or if we were going to have the opportunity to buy. We never even considered buying ever. It was too expensive in SoCal. And our friends said, hey, talk to our realtor guy. So the next morning we met this guy. He showed us 12 houses. The first house we saw was the one that as soon as we walked in, I knew that would be our house. It was also the cheapest, dumpiest, smallest one on that on the list. And then the next day we put in a offer along with like 4 other people. And he told us, you won't get this house if there's a cash offer. And somehow we beat out a cash offer. They accepted our offer, and we then drove home Friday morning. So it was so quick. And while we were driving home, we hadn't gotten a call yet from the realtor saying we got the house. And at that time, Eddie was supposed to accept an offer as a temporary teacher, which he's been doing for the past 6 years. It's been really hard for him to find a permanent job in teaching in California. And so he got a call from the school district as we're on the long trek home back to California. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, dude, if you have to call them back and say yes or no. And he's like, well, I don't know if we got the house. We thought we'd hear from them by now. So I opened up Zillow and it said the house was pending. And in that moment, my heart just dropped because I was like, somebody else got it. And as soon as I opened my mouth to tell my family that, our realtor called and said, you got the house. And we all just started crying. So we're like driving. And then that next exit, he pulled over, called the school district and said, I'm not going to be coming back next year. We're moving to Oregon. So for the next month, as we waited for the house to close, he tried getting a teaching job and there was nothing. Everything was frozen. And when we came up, we got our keys on a Monday. He applied at a small little private school that's 5 minutes from our doorstep. So we got the keys on Monday. And the next day, that little private school called him and said that he got the job there. So it was like, couldn't have lined up any better. But I haven't seen him this happy in many years. So he's just like living his dream right now. And of course, nothing makes me happier than that because he's been so supportive of me over the years and just seeing like finally got that permanent teaching position. He's in the place he's always wanted to be. He's finally able to own his house. And it's really sweet. So
I love that. I think in this time with everything that's going on, just hearing stories of things working out like they're supposed to and being able to find a little bit of joy and happiness and comfort in this time is wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that, Sally. We have a super chat question.
It's a question from the Maverick Theory in the chat room. They say, would Sally consider making regular YouTube content, whether it be about home renovations, running, etc.? She's a bundle of joy and I love weekly videos. Just pumpkin content.
This is a great question, the Maverick Theory. We appreciate the super chat too. Because this is something that I've been loving to follow, Sally, is your Instagram with the home reno stuff. I've been telling Kim like during this lockdown, I have these fantasies of home reno stuff. We rent, and a part of me is just like, I want to just rip out a wall and rip up. We have hardwood.
Do it and see what the owner thinks.
So you've been doing that. Like you have this home now, you moved to Bend, and it's been kind of this project, and I love following these renos. How has that been for you? And you thinking about making a YouTube channel?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, people have asked me over the years, hey, would you do a podcast on YouTube? And having been friends with you, Ethan, and a couple other people that I see that have YouTube channels, I have so much respect for the editing, production, all the stuff that nobody sees that you have to do beforehand to pull this off. I sincerely don't have time for that. I always thought it would be fun to do that, but I would need a team of people to help me. And then the second thing, the reno stuff has been so fun to share on Instagram, and the messages that come kill me because there's a lot of people that are actually like legit contractors that are like, hey, here's a much easier way to do that. Well, what in the world are you doing? And I just like belly laugh because it's like, when we first moved in, we thought, oh, we'll just hire someone to help us lay our floor. And then we realized to hire somebody, it costs triple the amount of the floor for them to put it in. And so Eddie and I were like, okay, I guess we're figuring that out because this is the only way that we can put our flooring in. So we are constantly on YouTube and like, okay, see how you did it? Now let's do it. And then, it takes 7 times longer than we think. But I am having so much fun. And I will share a little secret though. When I was little, like 7 or 8 years old, my dad, actually when I was younger than that, he worked at this battery factory. It was right across the street from our house, and it ended up closing down, and he had no work. And already our family really struggled with finances. And so he went to Home Depot and bought a bunch of books on how to do like home improvement stuff. And one of his customers from the battery factory came in one day and was like, hey, do you know how to build a fence? And he was like, yeah, I do. And he had no idea how to build a fence, but he read how to do it. And he built this fence for this guy. Well, this guy owned a ton of properties in Orange County and ended up hiring my dad. Do you know how to put in flooring? Oh, totally know how to put in flooring. And so everything that he did to build his business was just saying yes. So you'd just say yes, and then he would go home and he'd study like crazy. He learned how to do it, and to this day, that's his business. Well, when I was like 7 or 8, I started just going to work with him. He'd pay me like a couple bucks a day to go and like haul in tools. And I probably did that up until I was 12. So I actually did learn how to put in linoleum flooring. I knew how to put ceiling fans together, and I knew how to paint walls. And I would sit and watch him do plumbing, change faucets and toilets. And it was crazy. When we started the reno, I was like, dude, I think I remember how to do this. Like I walk in and I remember I was demolishing our one bathroom, and I came walking out with the toilet. And he's like, oh, okay. So we're doing that. So we're taking the whole bathroom apart. And then he walked in and it was like, everything was gone. The vanity was gone. Like everything's exposed. So I'm like, let's go for it. So I think there's that little bit of confidence in me that's like, I kind of remember this, it's coming back. And then other parts where I'm like, no, I don't remember that at all. So let's look it up. But I'll tell you, there's nothing better than just using your hands to make something and to create something and to be okay with screwing up. Cause it's, I think that's what we're supposed to do. I think we're supposed to create in some way. So, yeah, it's just taking us longer. We still don't even have a setup. There's no couch.
It's the weirdest thing that you say, like, we're meant to do stuff with their hands and like build things and things like that. It is this weird craving that I've had during all of this lockdown stuff where I'm working on my computer and creating movies or reviews or whatever it is all the time. I'm doing things digitally all the time. And I have yet to, I get a lot of joy out of building the Ginger Runner set or building this or, really small projects. And I'm like, I just want to take on something big, something I don't know how the hell to do it. And I'm going to put myself like deep underwater here, but figure out how to keep it afloat and make it happen. And so watching your videos on Instagram of the house reno, do you have like a highlight reel made of them yet?
Not yet. I have a lot of stuff I haven't posted yet though.
Okay.
So we've been trying to get everything. I kind of took a break. I was like, man, I hope that I'm not like, cause some days I just put so much stuff up and I was like, I hope I don't overdo it. But I noticed like the views even were like doubling and tripling. I was like, wow, people really like house renovation stuff. Like, screw the running. I'm just going to show you a picture of me taking the toilet out.
Yes, no more running stuff. If you could just give us 50 story elements every day of you just like ripping linoleum and like tearing a ceiling down, even if you don't have to, just do it.
Just do it. Just keep changing it.
We again have tons of live questions. Kim, I'll let you take it away.
There's some suggestions in the chat room of like, Ethan, why don't you make a table? Ethan, build a house. I mean, you could also help me with the fence today as I was working outside and you were looking at me through the window.
Hold on, context
Great
clues.
job, Kim.
Yeah.
That's what
You're
I would.
like eating some sort of snack on the couch.
I would love to build a table. We have no room inside, so it would literally have to be outside, and inclement weather has moved in. So, excuses. I would love to build a house. I'll leave that one alone because I wouldn't know the first thing at all. And in regards to helping you with the fence today, we have a weird fence that's made of.
We rent.
Yeah, but it's not our house, and it's made of bamboo, and it's falling apart. It is in
The owner of the
pieces.
house has made I thought it was a good idea when I first did it.
And I'm sure there's 2 years where it was awesome, but now it literally falls apart. And I have tried putting this back together. All the bamboo falls out.
dominoes.
One piece falls out, they all fell out. So I've tried fixing this multiple times. And every time I do it, I'm like, it's good. And I'll step back inside and it just goes, falls down. You have this magic touch. So I sit inside with my mug.
I love
Happy
how
fall, y'all.
you do, Kim. Your magic touch, so beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Back to my drink.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So good. Go ahead, sorry.
Anyways.
Yeah, so many more questions. I'll build a house
great,
my next
great question from Scott in the chat room. Scott says, Sally, it's been so great to see you running with your daughter. Are you helping her with training, and do you think she'll follow your running career?
Great question. I get that question actually a lot. When I was, let's see, it was 2014. So Mackenzie was, she was 7. Well, actually, yeah, she was 7 when I got assigned. So she was pretty young. And before that, I had always gone out on the trails and I brought both my kids. So Isaiah used to be interested. He's all in ball sports right now. But I would bring them on the trails with me. And I think being raised in a house where all of us played sports, and I remember getting burnt out when I was my sophomore year in college because of just pressure and expectations. I made a choice when my kids were little that any sports that we did, it was going to be all built on fun, enthusiasm, adventure. So when they were little, I never said, hey, we're going for a run. It would be like, let's go look for lizards, or let's go play tag out in the fields. And I would wear a running pack just shoved with so much food, like all their favorites that they can never have at home type thing, where it's like, can we go on the trail so we can have Snickers bars? Something like that. So I noticed right away that Mackenzie took a liking for it so much, just naturally. She loved being in the dirt. Anytime the dirt was like smooth, she'd run over to it and just put her hands in it and kind of roll around in it. She'd climb up on the rocks, and she loved watching the sunset. And so at a very young age, it just started to become something that she loved to do with me. But we never did workouts. I'd never talk about our pace or anything. It was just like, where are we going to go today? What are we going to see? I hope we see lizards. Can we play that bear game? We made it up like a bear game when they were little. And so I have always continued that. And I'd say probably once she started running on a team, so that was when she was 8, I knew then too that I just needed to step back, and I've never coached her. That really is the short of it. I don't believe that's my place. She'll have a lot of coaches in her life, but she'll always only have one mom. And I feel like that's just like the biggest gift for me, that I get to be her mom. And the difference between a coach and a mom is like night and day. Like, I'll never be that one that's going to put that pressure, be screaming at her because of maybe a time that she didn't get. Like, I want to be that one that's just cheering for her at the finish line, that she runs to, if she's upset or she's just heartbroken over something. Like, I feel like the role of a mom is so precious in a kid's life. And in Southern California, sports are like insane down there. And both my kids play sports. And I'll say that Eddie's an incredible athlete. That's my career. Both our kids are amazing athletes. Isaiah is wildly talented. He's good at every sport that he does. And it's so heartbreaking for me, like showing up to a football field and just hearing parents just rip their kids to shreds on the sidelines. And, and you just see their faces just drop and their shoulders come down. It's like, man, if you're doing that right now when they're 8 and 9 years old, they're going to either hate the sport, hate you, or not. They're not going to want to play anymore. And so, for those of you that are in the chat room that are runners, like, our sport's hard. With if you play soccer, you're working on different skills, right? But like running, you just go out and you just run. Like that's all you're doing is just running, and it hurts, and it's it's challenging. And so I think that especially in the last couple of years, as Mackenzie's become more competitive and kind of a little bit more well known, like she's placed really high, like at the national level, and when she was little, like Nike started doing stuff with her, I'd bring her with me up to Nike, and she would speak and do events. And I noticed there was a few times, like when we're out in public, that she'll come up to me and be like, "Wow, how do these people know me?" And and she's so little, and I've just always wanted to protect my kids from that, to not have that pressure. So in the past few years, I've just really taken a huge step back. Like when we go out and run, it is purely for fun. And now it's to the point where she'll tell me, we have the best conversations when we run. Like we have so much fun together, and we usually end and go get a coffee or a smoothie or something like that. We just talk about life, and being a 14-year-old girl is hard enough as it is. And so I'm just finding a lot of joy in just watching her grow. And she's insanely fast now too. So sometimes we'll be like, hey, like sometimes we'll do strides together, like we'll run fast to something, but she'll tease me sometimes too, like, yeah, you want to keep up? And I'm like, oh yeah. So we'll be playful on the trails together in that way. And she's incredible. She really isn't anything like me. Sometimes people will say, oh, she's just like you, or stride. I'm like, not at all. She's got this crazy, beautiful long stride, and she's just so gutsy and gritty out there. And I just have so much admiration for her. I get so excited that I get to be the mom of my children, because they're amazing. So she talks about wanting to be a professional athlete. That is her dream since she was little, is just, I want to be a professional runner. And she wants to be a Bowerman babe. So a little piece of why we moved up here too is because she wanted to, up her running performance. And so up here, she's going to learn how to run a little bit better in the snow and in adverse conditions at altitude. Yeah. Her team runs on the trails, and it's really important. And so a part of our move too was really just fostering my kids' dreams and helping them achieve what they want. So yeah.
I actually love this conversation, and it's something I kind of wanted to touch on today as well, is seeing these videos and clips of you and your daughter running and training out there in these beautiful new mountains in Bend, Oregon and stuff like that. I can't help but see you as this amazing connection between the upcoming generation of trail runners, mountain runners, but also an inspiration to those already established in the sport. Like you really do bridge this ground between, being a mountain champion and having lots of races under your belt and lots of experience, and what it's like to train in mountains and ultra, but then inspiring this new generation. Do you see the next gen coming up as you did through the sport? Are they getting younger? Are they getting more passionate about mountains and trails versus track or roads? Like that's definitely something that I feel like in the last 5 years has probably become more popular, is getting on trails and kids wanting to experience that sort of thing. So as a mom of a daughter who's a fantastic runner, where do you see yourself fitting in this puzzle, and what do you see as sort of the next gen?
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like because trail running has changed, and Ethan, I'm sure you remember, especially like the year that you and I first met, like trail running was different then than what it is today. And I think a big part of that is because of social media. When we first got into trail running, it was like, dude, what is a sport? Like you try to find stuff online, and it's like really shaky, odd videos of, people kind of walking, running, like, okay, ultra is weird. But as social media has taken off, which is really important to the running community, especially trail running, people are able to understand our sport. And I think that's what's made it more attractive too, because it's so beautiful and it looks exciting. And, and especially if you're able to do it as a career, it takes you all over the world to the most beautiful places. And so I think because of that alone, it's like people are drawn to that. Like, I want that adventure. I want that experience. And I think in the past couple of years, what I have seen in our sport is, yes, kids are coming straight from college and they're coming onto the trails. We're seeing every year records get broken. Course records are set every single year by a younger generation. They're faster. My biggest hope in all of that is just that at the core of the trail running community, that those of us that have been in it for a long time, that we can still foster in that younger generation the respect and love that we have for both the land and each other, because it is different from other sports where, typically even at the elite level, like we stick around at the finish line and we clap each other in. We get to the start line and we are respectful of everyone that's lining up, saying, dude, you rock. You're coming out here to run 50 miles, 30 miles, 100 miles. Well done for showing up and being brave and setting that foot forward. But I do think that that's kind of like the challenge right now, is like there's so many brands coming in. There's opportunities for people to be known, to be on a magazine cover, to make money, that we're talking about harder, bigger topics are starting to leak in and our sport is changing. So, but at the same time, that's the growing pains of any sport. And
sure.
I was just in Jackson Hole, Wyoming last weekend, and I kid you not, it's so crazy how small our community is. But I walk into the hotel we were staying, and there was a young kid working there. He was maybe 19 years old, and I start chatting with him, and he was super friendly, and so I asked him his name, and then he's like, "What's your name?" And I was Sally. He's like, "Are you Sally McRae? Okay, oh my gosh!" And like, he starts freaking out, and he's like a young kid, and he's like, I've listened to so many podcasts. And I'm like, whoa, you listen to podcasts? Like, you don't meet a lot of kids that are like 19 listening to podcasts, so excited about trail. But he's this amazing cross-country track runner in high school who just graduated. But his dream is to be a professional trail runner. So I chatted with him about that for a while. And, that conversation is becoming more common. I'm getting parents are contacting me, but also college kids are contacting me more than I've ever gotten before, saying, how do I do this? How do I get started in this sport? What does it look like? What's the pathway? And, I'll tell you, I've had so many incredible people in my life who have poured into me and have helped me navigate this sport, and just in other areas my entire life. That is how I see myself moving forward. I love working with youth. I used to coach youth years back when I was a high school teacher, like in soccer and other sports like that. But I have a big heart for the youth and really teaching them the joy that is found in our sport. I think it's so unique. But I do believe that all of us that are in it right now, like, we have that responsibility just to kind of send that message. Like, it's such a gift to be able to do what we do. And, it's different from road running and track running for very specific reasons. So, but it's exciting. I'm excited about the generation coming up, because they're going to be doing things that we never thought were possible.
I'm blown away that the question of, like, how do I become a professional trail runner is even in context now, because when we started, it was kind of a joke.
It was super rare. There was like maybe two people that you go, oh, they're maybe making a living off of this sport.
Yeah, it was like Killian Jornet and Emily Forsberg. It was like the two of them. And now they have a super child who's probably going to be one of the best in the sport too. But
already faster than me, but okay.
You would meet a professional ultra runner or trail runner, and they probably had a single brand deal, but they were like a full-time something else. Like it was, I get my shoes for free, or I get my gear for free. Or, I get maybe a stipend for attending a race or a free race entry. So it's crazy to think that there's conversations now happening of like, I want to become a professional trail runner. How do I do this? It's like, whoa, I didn't realize there was a pathway to do that. But you are one of the people who's sort of paving that path. And I can only imagine the number of people who have sort of approached you with that question, because it's like, I want to be like Sally McRae. You know, I want this to be my life. I want to be able to run and explore and work with Nike and do all this stuff. So I think you just have this really interesting and unique connection to both the history of the sport and the future of the sport. So I think that's really cool. And we'll have to continue to talk to you every time we get you on the show a little bit about that, because you'll probably be able to have your finger on the pulse of that. Again, we do have lots of live questions. I want to get to maybe one more. We'll save a lot of these for the after show, but Kim, what do you got?
Yeah, just a comment just in regards to what you were just talking about. Al in the chat room likened it to kind of the uprising of snowboarding and how, you know, some things were lost in the rise of popularity, but like so much more positive things were gained. And
Sure.
I think that can be like the parallel to somebody making a living from snowboarding at one time was probably like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You know?
I got a free board, you know, that's
right. Question from Micah, who is our data guru guy.
Oh, Micah?
And
Nice.
who just left us here in the Seattle area. So Micah says, as a fellow new Bend resident, have you had that "this is why we moved here" moment while out on the trails or doing something else around the area?
This is why I've moved here moment. I feel like that every single day. Honestly, I just flew in from Zion yesterday morning, and there was this feeling as soon as I touched down, my heart was just like so happy to be home. Like I love coming home. We live on the west side of Bend, so there's no traffic signals where we are. It's just all roundabouts. And if you've ever been to Huntington Beach, Orange County area in Southern California, and moved to somewhere where there's the speed limit everywhere is 35. I don't think I ever drive over 45 here. And that is insane, especially because I've gotten quite a few speeding tickets in my life. I've even been chased by a helicopter a couple times. That's for another podcast. So slowing down big time, one is just brought so much peace to my heart. I can't tell you enough, you know, and this kind of goes off what we were saying earlier, Ethan. Every single year, I think that my life is going to kind of slow down, but it doesn't. Every year it's gotten busier and busier. And in fact, this was going to be one of the most insane schedule-wise years of my life. And I was just like bracing for 2020. A lot of good things, but just also thinking like, wow, I either need to hire an assistant or kind of learn how to navigate this, because I was really starting to become overwhelmed, and it was affecting my health a little bit, my sleep, my stress level. You know, I do a lot more than just run. There's so many other things that you know, that over time I've just had some demands on, I guess, just my career. And so coming here when we were first kind of looking at houses and stuff, every time that we showed up in Bend, I just felt like I could breathe. It was just quieter, and I would walk by the river and just listen to the trees. And my heart was just so happy. But then what I realized in that too is like, this is one of the biggest reasons why, since I was a little girl, like I loved running in the mountains, because I just felt like I could breathe. And I was just away from that loudness. So, I'd say that pretty much every day I wake up and get out for a run. I'm so grateful to be here. I can't even explain it. And of course, driving through and seeing all the trees changing color, like fall is in the air, you guys. Red and yellow and orange. It's just so awesome. So,
you know what else is in the air, Sally? A helicopter, and it's still looking for you. It'll find you, I promise. I can't wait to ask that question at a future podcast.
Yes, a future podcast.
I feel for sure like we could just continue to talk, because there's so much catching up that we have yet to do. And I want to know more about the Bend area. I want to know more about what you've gotten up to this year. You just mentioned Jackson Hole and Zion. I'm curious about that. I think maybe we will move a little bit of this conversation to the after show. Kim, you also have 800 questions from the live chat room there. So we'll probably save some of those for the after show as well. But Sally, we just can't thank you enough for joining us on the show tonight, and just scratched the surface. So I hope that you can come back and join us on the show here soon, and we can get back into the deeper stuff.
Just go drive up there now. Live show, guys.
We literally are hours.
Too.
You have to quarantine outside in our mail room. We have a tiny little 2 foot by 2 foot room that everything stays in for 2 weeks. So you can hang out there if you want.
Perfect.
But Sally, can you remind people where they can find you on social media, where they can follow and all your adventures, whether it's home improvement or on the top of a mountain?
Yeah. Yes. SallyMcRae.com, which it's under construction. There's a lot of good content on there. I'm going to start moving more stuff there, especially after watching the first 40 minutes of Social Dilemma on Netflix. No longer on social media, no. But Instagram, Yellow Runner, I'm very active there. And then on Twitter, I'm Sally McRae. So, yeah.
Awesome. Our guest tonight was Sally McRae, the one and only. Always a delight to talk with her, and just so much positivity and energy. And the chat room, every time we have Sally on the show, the chat room has that same energy. They have that same sort of like, thank goodness Sally exists, you know, thank goodness that there is this person with so much positivity, especially right now when the world is in the place that it's in. We have someone like Sally to help keep us smiling. So
is something going on in the world?
I saw something. I saw a tweet about something happening, but I scrolled too quickly. We're going to move into our after show. Our after shows for our Patreon subscribers. If you'd like to join us over there, you can go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. For as little as $1, you get access to our after show tonight and all of our archived after shows. And $3 and above gets access to the after show, but also our Daily Brew daily live show. So you'll definitely want to check that out if you have not already. So Sally will be joining us for tonight's after show. But of course, before we move into the after show, we have a segment that we'd like to do at the end of every episode where we get to recognize a member of the community who did something awesome, who went above and beyond. And it is our GR crew member of the week. So Kim, who is this week's GR crew member?
This week's GR crew member of the week is Daniel Stoneham. And Daniel ran his very first official marathon.
Damn.
Daniel said, coming out with 2 injuries and coming last in my category, but I trained so hard for this and managed to get across the line nonetheless. And I believe Daniel's in the UK.
So maybe the London
well.
Marathon, like the virtual London Marathon?
Maybe, yeah.
Big hot topic of conversation this
Very
weekend.
hot. So congratulations, Daniel.
Nice
Congratulations on nailing your first marathon.
Well done, Daniel. Thank you for being a part of the GR crew and for just kicking ass. If you would like to be a GR crew member of the week, again, just, you know, we got our Facebook group, we've got our Discord server now, we've got our Patreon crew, we've got all sorts of social media that you can follow along and let us know what you're getting up to out there. We're going to move right into our after show with Sally McRae. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into tonight's Ginger Runner Live, episode number 328. We'll see you next week. Get out there, train as hard as you can, virtually race harder, and party the hardest. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Ginger Runner.